So, as you're well aware, over the last few months, we've had a lot of stuff going on with Plants vs. Zombies 3. We had a new version, and since then, PopCap have kind of gone full force on it. We've had multiple trailers now, we've had multiple updates, and yeah, that's been ticking along, and it's caused a lot of controversy, lots of conversations, that type of thing. However, what also came out during that time is a new version of Plants vs. Zombies match, and I feel it hasn't really had much attention. I feel like Plants vs. Zombies 3 has kind of taken the hot spot. So today, I thought I would give you my brutally honest opinions, a review on what I think of this new version. There's 75 levels in total in this, and yeah, I'm just going to talk you through what's good, what's bad, what's changed, as this is, I think, the third iteration of the game. Now, I'm going to give PvZ Match a bit of the benefit of the doubt, because originally when PvZ Match came out, it was this PvZ Match 3 game where literally all it seemed was they took the basic template of a match 3 game and just stuck a bunch of Plants vs. Zombies themed items and backgrounds in there, and they weren't even particularly good. The items in there weren't PvZ related. We had a couple of plants, but yeah, that's it. But the game has actually, in all fairness, come quite a long way since then. There's still much room for improvement, but yeah, it's certainly getting there. As you know, I'm a pretty positive person, so we're going to start with the positive stuff, the things that I liked, and there's some stuff in here that I actually really enjoyed. For example, one of the main things that I really enjoyed were the zombie levels. So these are levels that came up every 10 levels, I'd say, so there's about 7 or 8 of these. I kind of wish there was more of these, because these really were loads better than the rest of the typical match 3 levels. So, and this is where the real PopCap, the special sauce, we'll call it, where I feel like I was actually playing a PvZ game, and I feel like there was some actual innovation and some really interesting mechanics. So, as you'll see, basically at the bottom you've got your matching, and you'll do the sort of general mechanic, but at the same time you've got to fight zombies, and then you've got to protect your brains. And you'll see, obviously, this is very similar to the original version of PvZ 3. And you may also remember in the original version of PvZ Match that they did try and do this type of thing, but it was kind of combined within the regular levels. But I think this actually works a lot better. Not only am I having to sort of do the objective, but I've also got to think about where I match, because I've got to hit the zombies. So when you match, you are able to actually shoot peas at the zombies, or if you use a power-up, you'll be able to use different attacks as well. But that's what you've got to combat. And obviously we've got at the top, we've got waves. There are some levels where there's multiple waves. You've got 3 lives, which perhaps, I think that's a little, I never needed them. They never got to them. They never got to my brains. But yeah, it's a really interesting level, and I just wish there was loads more of these, because I'm not being funny, getting to these levels were actually a relief from the monotony of the normal levels, because I think after a while, especially because I was trying to play them in quite big chunks to sort of get this review done, it was a really breath of fresh air when I got to these levels, and it was really nice. And like I say, I actually felt I was playing a Plants vs. Zombies game, and it's that innovation that PopCap used to do that I think I feel that's here. It's got a ways to go. At the moment, there's only brown coats that you fight, so I think obviously adding the variety of zombies would be nice, and a couple of other things. And you'll notice at the bottom, you'll see those plants that are locked. You don't actually get to use them in this version of the game, but presumably they might be useful in these levels, but they do appear in all the levels. But yeah, they would be really interesting to see how they all work as well. But yeah, it's really good. I really enjoyed those levels, and yeah, just give us more of that, PopCap. I think it's going in a really nice direction. So another thing I really enjoyed were plant combinations. So when you're matching it in this game, you can sometimes create a plant. If you match 4 or 5, you can sometimes create a cherry bomb or a star fruit, and they have different abilities. But what's really cool is that you can actually combine these. So if 2 plants are sat next to each other, you can actually combine them. And by doing this, you create a dual effect. And the thing I compare this to is Crash Tag Team Racing. I don't know if you've ever played that, but you basically combine their abilities together. And something about that is just really cool. And the animation is pretty good. And yeah, it's just super satisfying. I was also comparing it to, it's like if you combine 2 Pokemon. I don't know, I get that cool kind of feeling. And yeah, I'd just like to see more of that. I'd like to see more plants. And perhaps more combinations. There was one combination that I wasn't really able to do, which is 2 Starfruit, which does a crazy one. But yeah, that was just something really satisfying about that I just loved. So now I want to talk about objects. So these are present in pretty much all the levels, and most of the objectives are to get rid of said objects. And there's different ways to get rid of them, either match next to them, destroy them with a power-up, all those types of things. Now, originally, I wasn't too keen as, well, most of them you destroy in kind of the same way. I feel like there could be more interesting ways to do it, but also I wasn't convinced that they were PvZ enough. Although we had gravestones, we had tacos, I don't know, just some of the other objects are just, there were skulls, I don't know, I just wasn't sold. We had boxes, like Crash Bandicoot boxes and stuff, but that was until I got to like level 50 and they introduced cones. Now that for me is quite interesting, because that's kind of like, you know, battling zombies in a way. And what was really nice about them as well, they had a really cool sound effect, and I think sound effects in these types of games are really, really important. It's got to sound satisfying, and destroying the cones really, really did. But then they also introduced a really interesting object. They introduced a TV, again related to another type of zombie, but these are actually really cool. These were much larger objects. They were kind of like boss objects, I'd say, that you had to try and destroy. And not only, you know, with their TVs, they also had really cool damage states. So it was almost kind of like a Zomboss boss fight, but like when you destroyed bits of it, Zomboss would appear in the TV screen, and the graphics in there were just really, really nice. And that for me, again, was really cool, and I quite enjoyed it, and I just wanted to introduce that more. I feel like, you know, we need stuff like disco balls to destroy, or, you know, buckets, bricks, you know, all the other things that are related to zombies, just to tie it all in, just to kind of feel like you're still battling zombies rather than objects. But yeah, so yeah, that grew on me a bit, really. So the final thing before we move on to the less good type of things, I wanted to just talk about just the game in general. I think as a match 3 game, everything seems to work. You know, it's just the little things, sort of like if there's no matches, everything shuffles, and I know that's expected, but you know, considering, I know it's not PopCap making this, but you know what I mean, from that point of view, it works, you know what I mean. And I know there's much more complicated games out there, but you know, it's important that they get that type of thing right, and I think they have for the most part. Now, you may have noticed already, but this version of PvZ Match certainly has a lot more similarities to the current version of Plants vs Zombies 3. And unfortunately, for the most part, it's borrowed things that people don't really like about Plants vs Zombies 3. For example, the live system. Why is this in here? Nobody likes this, and I just feel like it's a dirty tactic to get people to spend money on your game. You know what I mean? You know, forcing me by, if you're not gonna spend your in-game currency, or if you're not gonna pay real money, you can't play this game for half an hour. You know, I just think it's a bad anti-customer, anti-consumer tactic that does nothing for your reputation, harms it, if anything. So yeah, like for example, I got to level 70. I wanted to finish the last 5 levels, was 75 levels, and I used all my lives. I hadn't got enough coins to buy more lives, and that was it. You know, fortunately I could go and edit stuff, but I was kind of like, okay, well, you don't want me to play your game, then fine, I won't play your game. You know, and I just, yeah, just take it out, for God's sake. And they've also got the buffs, the start power-ups, but similarly to PvZ 3, I think there's a lot of luck. There's more luck in PvZ Match, and I think I was using them just because I wanted to use them, because I might as well, but yeah, I didn't feel like I needed them at any point, and I just think it's just, again, it's a microtransaction-y thing. There's also the difficulty. Difficulty sort of goes up and down. There's obviously something, I'm not sure whether this is a new sort of theory thing with casual games, that you're supposed to increase and decrease the difficulty just to keep things a bit more interesting, rather than, you know, increasingly getting more difficult. But yeah, that's in there. Like for example, level 50 to 60 just was really easy after some quite difficult levels in comparison. Also, the dialogue system, and kind of, well, it's kind of the Gardenscapes thing, but without being able to customize. It's very similar. So you have to pay Sun to unlock the dialogue for whatever reason. And then as you go through, you clear the zombie fog. You just don't decide what those visuals are. And I think it's the same system, just less, you know, and I'm not gardenscaping. But yes, the dialogue system is still in there. There is some funny dialogue. We had Dave and Immorticia to start with, which originally I thought was really cool. I thought, oh, we're going to go through like the PvZ Heroes zombies. But no, it kind of did a bit with Immorticia. There was some silly rhyming, which was quite funny. And yeah, and then unfortunately then Zomboss arrived, and I just thought, oh, it'd be really cool if we had like different themes for different like PvZ Heroes characters or new characters, and that would relate to the mechanics in the matching levels, for example. Lastly, let's talk about the not so good. So there's not that many things in here, but yeah, a couple of things that I think definitely need addressing. So performance. Now, overall the game performed pretty well, no issues for the most part. However, the game, about halfway through, I'd say the game started crashing. And I think I probably experienced around, I'd say, 10 crashes overall, which is a lot. And for most of the time, it seemed to be more frequent the more I played. And there were some weird ones where, like, sometimes if you just stayed on one screen, like I went to get a drink, for example, then it would crash because it was on the same screen for too long. So yeah, like I say, it's still a little rough around the edges. But yeah, so those crashes definitely need addressing. Animations in the story sections are really bad, to be honest. They're so basic, but I think similar to how it worked in Plants vs Zombies 3, I think that they're just sort of placeholders and they'll get updated near the time of the full release. Music, that got very annoying after a while because it was literally the same one on repeat, and it's the music from Plants vs Zombies Adventures. It works, but yeah, like I say, it can get very repetitive. Again, obviously this is still due to the work in progress of the game, but whilst it was repetitive, there weren't many issues. Like, the music does change in certain areas, and there wasn't like moments where it just cut off randomly. Everything sort of from that point of view, it was fine. The only thing really that was annoying me in a gameplay point of view was the move hint. So to help you not be stuck and not like just sitting there trying to find a match for ages, the game gives you a little hint. However, for me, it's too frequent. Like, it's too quick to give you a hint. So like, sometimes I'm trying to look and then it's giving me a hint, but that's not always the only match you can do. There's probably a better one. So your mind sort of just gets fixated on the ones that it's like showing you to move and match. And yeah, I just think there should either be an option to turn it off if you don't want hints, or it should just be like literally only if there's no other matches you can do. I just think it just kind of hinders that sort of challenge a bit. I think it just doesn't need it. I feel. So yeah, so that is my brutally honest thoughts of PvZ Match. Overall, it wasn't too bad. It's definitely. I feel like in comparison to Plants vs Zombies 3, I feel like we've seen good improvements each time, and I think it still feels like it's got a ways to go, but there's some really good stuff in there. Some stuff I think that could really go a long way if they sort of develop it and sort of think about what's really good about this. And like I say, the zombie levels in particular, they really are that special sauce, and I think they've got to run with that. And I think if they do, and I think if they just, I mean, those PvZ 3 elements just again, they don't need to be there. But yeah, I think for the most part, it was all right. Some of the match 3 levels got a bit monotonous, like I said. I think there needs to be more variety. We'd like to see some different levels, and like I say, more zombie levels would be awesome. But yeah, so my closing thoughts are I enjoyed it. I would say it's worth checking out, but yeah, still hold fire if you're really skeptical about this. I'd say still hold fire. Let's see what happens. See if there isn't. See how these updates and these new betas continue. But yeah, it's getting there. It's getting better, and considering where we were when we originally saw this, it's certainly doing pretty well. And the opinions are slightly changing, so it's heading in the right direction, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, guys, that is going to do it. This has been one hell of a long video. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what you think of Plants vs Zombies Match in the comments below. But other than that, remember to like and subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Okay, thanks, guys. Bye. Bye.